listening to Now Steaming. It's the podcast where we serve fresh hot takes from the millennial Tsinoy perspective. My name is Stancy. I am a radio DJ and a podcaster and a voice talent, and I am collaborating once again with the co-creators of So Asian Comics, Kimberly Mas and Cedric Cheng. Let's get down to what we're talking about for this week. And this is a topic that if you grew up in a Tsinoy household, I'm sure you've had many experiences with this, either firsthand or nakikita mo na nangyayari literally around you. And that's the inherent misogyny in our community. And yung misogyny, napaka-heavy word nun eh.
Yeah.
Diba? When you say misogyny, iniisip mo na agad, hala, that's something bad, that's something wrong. And you know, when you think about it, it really is, because it's an extreme form of sexism. It's basically when the patriarchal society or yung patriarchal side of everything really has to be dominant, really takes precedence. Nangingibabaw talaga na pag lalaki ka, ikaw yung tama, or ikaw yung may kapangyarihan, ikaw yung loudest voice in the room. Those are just some examples of misogyny. And when we talk about this topic, let's just put it out there muna na hindi natin sinasabi na lahat ng Tsinoy household ay misogynistic. Hindi natin sinasabi na lahat ng Tsinoy males ay misogynist or sexist or even bigoted. Hindi natin sinasabi na lahat. Ang sinasabi natin is that merong mga attitudes na misogynistic. Merong mga bagay na sinasabi, na ginagawa, na alam mo yung systemic na siya. They've long been part of our culture, our behavior, kaya ang hirap na siyang i-shake off kasi
Parang naging norm na siya.
Yes.
It became a quote-unquote norm for everyone, saying, okay, this is a normal thing. It's not misogyny. It's normal. Because
Right.
everybody says it. Everybody does it. Right?
Right. A lot of it is also being desensitized. Na hindi tayo sensitive na nangyayari to. At dahil doon, pag nangyayari siya, inisip natin na normal, like Kim said.
Yeah. Like, ako personally, I had to deprogram my thinking, over the years. Yeah. It's hard, really. But, it's nice that, you keep your mind open and you start learning these new things that, you were never taught before, right?
Right. Kasi pag yung misogyny, napaka broad term din niya, 'di ba? Lalo na for our community, a lot of us might not be super familiar pa with the word in itself. Kasi 'di ba, if you look it up, you can see words like hatred, contempt, or prejudice. Again, really big words, really big concepts. Pero siguro when we narrow it down, it's a form of sexism that really punishes those who reject yung inferior status for women and reward those who accept it. So, parang in-encourage niya na yung idea na pagbabae, it really is lower in status, lower in terms of power than the men. So, I think a lot of these questions that we're going to be asking tonight, we're going to try to ask it from Kim's point of view, from Kim's perspective, kasi 'di ba, you're the female. Marami kang experiences na kami ni said hindi namin pinagdaanan just because we were born with a penis, right? That's really just the way it is.
Yeah, just the way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, siguro to start, have you ever had direct experiences with misogyny at home or at school, just because yung nga, babae ka, and then it's related also to yung culture natin bilang Tsinoy?
Yeah, maybe we can start with home. So, just a short background about myself. Firstborn. I'm the firstborn. So, there's two of us, brother and sister. So it's me and my brother. My brother's younger, obviously, and both my parents, sila yung panganay sa pamilya. So that's really a heavy word. And my grandpa, he was, let's say, he was born in China, but he came over to the Philippines when he was a teenager or something. I think that was the story, if I'm not mistaken. So sorry na lang if mali yung story ko, pero that's not the point. So my grandpa, he's very patriarchal. So super loves it na parang, yeah, I'm the man of the family. I have to earn. So that carried over to his kids as well. So my dad, he's the eldest among 6 siblings. So you can see how much pressure that is. My family also, just a short background. We do manufacturing, so we do a lot of wire and cable. We do wire and cables, so we manufacture wire and cables. It's a big business, and I would say like there's a big weight on my dad na he has to carry on the business. So when I was born, syempre panganay, diba? First grandkid ever for both sides, and my grandpa was just, I can feel it, like he was so upset about it na I was a girl.
How
Like when I
could you
was
feel
born.
it?
More on, syempre, when I was a kid, di ko yung nararamdaman, di ba? Like, I mean, syempre, obviously, like when I was born, syempre, love pa rin, di ba? Everybody loves me. Firstborn na grandkid. But, just to put it into perspective lang for the other listeners, my dad was telling me this, just random story lang. Wala siya sa topic ng misogyny. He just talked about it. Sinabi, oh, don't feel bad, Atsi. Pero, when you were born, your grandpa didn't visit you until after a week or 2 weeks, something like that. I don't know. I don't like he doesn't know the exact reason, pero perhaps it was just because I was a girl. Like he was really expecting a guy talaga. So right after me, my parents tried really hard to have a para sobrang pressure nila kasi kailangan daw guy sa sino magmamana ng business, 'di ba? Parang ganun. So they tried really hard for a guy. And fortunately enough, my brother came, and when my brother was born, my grandpa just dropped everything and went straight to the hospital. So you can see how unfair that is, right? Like just because I was a girl, na I'm gonna be quote unquote married out, it's not something to celebrate. It's just yun lang, para girl, okay, sige, I'll
And
visit
the
you.
expectation that you're not the one who's gonna inherit the family business
Yeah,
because you're a
yung
girl.
expectation na I'm a girl, once I'm married out, I won't have anything. Like it's supposed to be my husband's family who's gonna take care of me. I think that's the usual mindset, not just for me, but for other of my friends as well na females na ganun din talaga yung expectation. Like once you're married, wala na, you have to be taken care of by the other by your husband's family. So parang ganun yung concept. Well, that's what I know, okay? I don't know what they told you guys, like, but is it different from a guy's perspective, like when you get married or something? I'm just curious.
I've heard something similar growing
Mhm.
up na ganun din, yung concept na you're carrying on your father's name, di ba? You're carrying on your
Yeah.
grandfather's last name. I'm glad na you mentioned nung start yung ranks in the family, yung hierarchy ng mga magkakapatid. Kasi importante yan for context, di ba? For the Chinese Filipino families, importante yung yung eldest male, and then yung eldest apo na lalaki.
Yep.
'Di ba? Parang may hierarchy pa 'yan eh. It does and then yung eldest anak na male ng eldest na lalaki. Ano pa 'yon? Different status pa 'yon. I'm not sure if you've
Uh-huh.
ever heard of that. Like in your dad's case, yung kanyang eldest born male is your brother. So
Yeah.
technically sa lahat ng mga apo, siya yung parang senior
Yeah, senior. Even
because of that.
though like there was a male, parang I have a male cousin. Ganun na lang. Male cousin that was born before my brother. Pero parang wala siyang weight. It's
Yes.
because it's my aunties.
Yes.
Basically to say it's my dad's sister's son.
Right, right,
So parang
exactly.
he doesn't carry the surname. So parang okay, yeah, son ka, cool, but you don't have like weight in this family or
I wouldn't say weight, more of in terms of hierarchy.
hierarchy, or parang wala kang say.
Yes,
Tama
yes.
ba? Yeah, wala kang say sa family. Yeah.
Parang ganun, right? Like in the super traditional, strict sense. Like I can
Yes.
relate to yung the position that you and your brother are in because that's kind of my place in the family.
Mhm.
My dad is the third na anak, pero siya yung eldest na, siya yung second na
Okay.
lalaki. And
Okay.
then among the boy cousins, I'm the eldest born. Like I have an elder male cousin, but his father is younger than my dad. So technically, in terms of like the ranks, if you're gonna be strict about it, like ako yung nakatataas. And I have elder female cousins who are all married now, so technically they don't carry the last name. So I get what you're saying.
My brother, I would say he's very spoiled, more spoiled than me. His seventh birthday, he got like this huge birthday party. I mean, I had one as well, but he had like more, I guess. Like there was a point that I felt like it's kind of unfair, or parang hindi halata yung favoritism sa kanya. There was a point na I felt that way, but right now, I mean, it's a little bit better. Like, syempre, mas progressive na yung, I mean, my parents are more exposed to like different things, but before, you could feel it like siya yung favorite, parang lahat binibigay sa kanya, and parang when it comes to, like, when me and my brother argue, they always side with him. Yun
Did you
na
ever
lang.
resent him for that?
I never resented my brother. We always had a close relationship, but more of resenting parang my parents. Parang how could you just favor him over all of that? Just because he's a guy, or parang you respect his opinion more just because he's a guy. Okay, this actually happened plenty of times na um I can't remember what the context of the conversation was, but basically it was just my parents asking for parang what our opinion was. Let's say parang regarding a new cell phone, let's say the iPhone 12, iPhone 13, or parang what's your opinion? Tapos sasabihin ko, "Oh yeah, I love the iPhone 13. It's great, has great specs, has great graphics. I really think you should get it." Tapos they won't listen to me until my brother actually says it. Like, for example, yung brother ko naman nagsabi, ma, iPhone 13 is great. He doesn't even have to explain it. He's just gonna say, oh, ma, it's great. They're gonna get it. Like, kung sa akin, kailangan may second opinion pa. Pero pag sa kapatid ko, sinabi niyang okay, okay na. Like, parang
Uh,
mas naniniwala sila sa brother ko over me. I don't know if it's because he's a guy or I
you have
just
to defend your opinions,
I
pa.
have to
Yeah.
defend my opinion. Parang walang laman or walang weight yung opinion ko just because, or perhaps because I'm a girl, or parang my brother knows more because he's a guy. I don't know.
I
Not
think
even
it's
tech stuff, not even tech stuff, like other things as well. Okay, that the iPhone was just an example.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Totally fair as an example. When it comes to kunwari sa household namin, I don't know shit about tech anymore. I let my sister take care of all of that shit, and thankfully my parents listen to her every time they have a tech question. But going back to you, Kim, and yung story mo, did you ever consider talking to your parents about it, trying to flesh it out? Kasi you
Mhm.
mentioned na there was a bit of resentment towards your parents because of that paano ba yun, nakasanayan ng behavior. So
Mhm.
did you ever confront them about it?
Ooh, there was a time I did tell them off. Like, parang, how come when it's me, you don't listen to my opinion? I'm saying the exact same thing. My brother's just repeating what I said. How come his words have more weight than me? And I can't remember what they said, but basically they just defended my brother. Kasi mas ano siya. I can't remember the exact reason they gave, pero sinabi lang niya, kasi mas alam niya, or parang, lalaki yan, or I don't know, some reason.
along those
It's just,
lines.
yeah, along those lines, and it's really frustrating. Sobra.
So hearing this story from you, Kim, reminds me of a personal experience that I had
Mm-hmm.
just a couple of years ago. And this was when one of my eldest cousins, a father's side, came home to the Philippines for a work trip. She's based in Australia, and she's in her late 30s. She's married, has two kids. And we met up for drinks, me and my other
Okay.
cousins. And this never happens. My cousins and I don't drink together. So for it to have happened was a really big deal for everybody in the family, especially when the pictures came out on Facebook. And then a couple of nights after we had gone out to drink, we were having a family lunch at the mall. And then one of my uncles asked, itong pinsan ko na to, he asked her, oh, I saw the picture you guys went out to drink. Hanggang ano oras kayo nagstay out? And then my cousin said, until mga 2 a.m., ganyan. And then sabi nila, bakit ka nagsistay out ng ganyan ka-late? Kababae mong tao, they told her. And she was telling me this story with all the frustration na parang talagang galit na galit siya. And then sabi niya, bakit ako sinuscold mo ng ganito? Si Stan naman kasama ko ha. And then they were like, si Stan lalaki yun eh.
Mm-hmm.
So, you could see that there was a bit of favoritism towards me because of the virtue na lalaki ako and my
Mm-hmm.
cousin was female, even though in terms of age and life experience, mas marami na siyang
Mm-hmm.
pinagdaanan compared to me. Late 30s, may asawa, dalawang anak, all of that stuff, right? So, Kim, have you ever had to go through that and how did that make you feel?
Yeah, siguro a classic example, or the example I would always give was graduation, right? High school graduation. So there was always this tradition in when you go to Ika or Xavier, like you go to Boracay after you graduate, right?
I
So,
don't know about you, that's some rich kid shit.
oh really? Okay, I don't know, but basta there was some Bora thing going on in my batch. Okay, so obviously, like I had to ask my parents, okay, can I go to Boracay with my friends just to celebrate graduation? And they just told me this. Okay, Kev, you can't go because kababae mong tao, mag-isa ka pupunta with your friends to Boracay to
Mhm.
celebrate graduation. Wag na, just stay here at home. Mas
Mhm.
safe ka pa. And when my brother graduated high school, so obviously may Boracay thing na naman going on.
Mga
Yung sa
Xaverian talaga.
yeah, daming pauso no. But yeah, he was allowed to go with his friends just because lahat sila lalaki, or parang majority naman sila lalaki naman kapatid mo, okay lang yan. Yeah, sure, go ahead. And another example would be, I actually asked my parents if I could go to Canada to study. So I really wanted to take up an arts course in Canada. There was a really good university there offering animation or multimedia arts or whatnot. And their answer was immediately, okay, Kim, you can't go because you're a girl. Wag na, dito ka na lang. Para mababantayan ka namin kasi girl ka. It's not safe for you to go abroad and all of that. All of that shiz, okay? So when it was my brother's turn to go to college, obviously he wanted to go to Canada as well. It was both of, like, it was the same thing. We both wanted to go to Canada, but eventually my brother was allowed to go just because he's a guy. And how do I know this? It's because I confronted my parents about it. How come my brother's allowed to go? How come Kyle's allowed to go? I'm not allowed to go. And yung sagot lang nila, kasi lalaki naman yan eh. Okay lang yan. Okay lang na pumunta siya dun. Even China tour. Grade 7, I think Stan, you're familiar with this. Said you're
Yeah,
also
ito ba
familiar
yung
with this.
kay Lucio Tan na China tour?
I
In
think it's that
Xiamen?
one. Yes, Xiamen.
Xiamen, I went there too.
Yeah, I went there too.
Oh, diba? You guys went there. I wasn't allowed to go there because I think that time grade 6 or grade 7 lang ako. And
Was it
I
because
asked
you were too young or kasi kababae mong tao?
Or
two
both.
reasons. Babae ako, tas bata pa ako.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
it. Okay? So,
To
yeah.
be fair, mas ma-appreciate mo siya in high school. So yun,
Yeah,
medyo gets ko
yeah.
na reason.
Okay.
Pero yung dahil babae ka is totally wrong, right? Very
Yep.
sexist. So, napaka-layered niyan eh. 'Di ba?
Yeah.
When your parents say na kababae mong tao or mas safe kasi lalaki siya. So let's start with the kababae mong tao. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the Madonna horror complex. Traditionally,
Yeah, okay,
traditionally in societies na very religious or very conservative, the ideal of a woman is really to be more of like Madonna, the Virgin Mary. Na you're pure, you're chaste, all of that clean stuff. As opposed to the whore, the harlot who sleeps around, you can't be openly sexual, you can't be sexually liberated because you're a slut. So there's that. And if you narrow it down sa Filipino society, which is already religious by default, mas gugustuhin nilang Maria Clara ka kesa Maria Ozawa. Right? They want you to be like the perfect picture of the very wholesome, very pure and chaste woman like Maria Clara was portrayed as in Noli Me Tangere. So, dun pa lang napaka-double standard na eh. Kasi, di ba sabi mo, Kim, si Kyle, is that your brother's
Yeah,
name? Si
yeah.
Kyle,
My
okay
brother-
na magboracay siya. Lalaki naman eh. Di ba? So, like,
Yeah.
if he goes and sleeps around, whatever. But if you sleep around and
Yeah,
something
it's
happens,
not
that's
fair.
yeah, that's 9 months now. We're gonna have to take care of your ass. How does that feel, hearing that being unpacked from that reason na ultimately is rooted in safety? Kasi diba, as a parent, your job is to keep your kids safe. Pero pag yun yung dinahilan to you as a woman, how does that make you feel?
I would say that's kind of unfair, and I think we're going in a little bit into rape culture na here. Yung parang, okay, just because you're a girl, kailangan, you have to be careful kasi if you get, just in case you get raped, wala ka ng value,
Oh.
which is not supposed to be the case, di ba?
Like,
Yeah.
even Maria Clara was raped
Yes, yes.
by who was that? Si Praile?
Padre Salvi.
Yeah, Padre Salvi, right? So, even for a nun, diba? Even for a conservative woman like Maria Clara, she's still raped because of, rapists, not because of who she is or what she was wearing, diba?
Yeah. I like what Stan said earlier na double standards. It's always like that. Not just in the Philippines, but I think Asia. Like sobrang double standards pagdating sa women. Kind of unfair to us because there's a lot of weight. I feel this is a Miss Universe question actually. Is it harder to be a man or a woman? I can't remember which series or which year this was, but somebody was asked like, is it harder to be a man or a woman? And I think the contestant replied, it's harder to be a woman. There's a lot more weight. You carry a lot of like burden, like you have to give birth. There's a lot of stuff you need to do as a woman, diba? Parang a lot of stuff that you're expected to do as a woman. Parang ganun.
I'm sure now when that question was asked, the contestant must have felt a lot of pressure right now.
Yeah. I
Uh,
don't feel. Sige, let's not go into that. I kind of got the reference, but yeah, go ahead.
Let's go back to rape culture. And I can tell na you have a lot of thoughts about this. Syempre kasi growing up, sa'yo talaga sinabi itong mga bagay na to na wag kang pupunta ng Boracay kasi baka may mangyari sa'yo. Or okay lang kasi yung kapatid mo, lalaki naman yan, ikaw babae ka eh. And hearing those things as a woman, What does that tell you about yung attitudes natin towards rape culture?
It hasn't changed. I feel like those kind of opinions or thoughts, they have to be gone na by the next decade, or we have to try like changing those things by the next decade. And it's unfair to women. And yeah, like what you said earlier, yung reason na for example, yung brother ko, this one I've heard plenty of times, not just in my family, but my other friends' experiences as well. So, for example, if a guy sleeps around, okay lang. Okay lang kasi lalaki naman
Parang
siya eh.
people
Wala,
even look up
it's
to him pa
fine.
nga eh, di
Yeah,
ba?
parang it's a good thing if you sleep around if you're a guy. But if you're a girl, you sleep around, oh man, that's bad. You're a bad girl. Or things like that. And it's kind of unfair talaga. Sobrang unfair. Parang wala na ba kaming value if we I mean, I'm not saying that you should sleep around, but I'm just saying it's double standards. It's unfair to women.
At saka ano rin, we have this culture of victim blaming. Yeah. So, when, diba, usually when rape victim, diba, up until right now, usually yung mga people na, they would say, na, oh, what were you wearing? What time were you out? Why were you drinking? Diba? Those kinds of things na, when in fact, I think Stan mentioned this, not sure if it was earlier or the other episode na we should teach men not to rape, right?
Yeah, I think na yung problem talaga, it's very systemic. When you talk
Yeah.
about rape culture, it's very systemic, it's very behavioral, and Sed's right. Sed's right when he says na you shouldn't teach women not to be a rape victim, you should teach men not to rape.
There we
But when we
go.
also when we say this, I think we should also zoom out and say we should tell people in general not to rape. Kasi
Yep.
Yes.
not
Can go
all
both ways
rapists
eh.
are men. It can go
Mm-hmm.
both
Yes.
ways,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
Will
Like
go
men
both
and
ways.
women can rape, and both
Yeah.
women and men can be rape victims or
Yes.
survivors.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at this pyramid. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the idea of the rape culture pyramid. So I'm looking at this website from the 11th Principle. They talk about rape culture. This was a resource that was shared to me by the late Ria Gamboa, one of the co-founders of Empower Philippines, alongside Kat Alano, the actress.
Mm-hmm.
They were a couple of the people behind the rhymes with wrong hashtag on Twitter. Anyway, yung rape culture pyramid, it starts with behaviors that are considered normal. So, kunwari, yung mga
Mm-hmm.
sexist attitudes,
Yep.
rape jokes, locker room talk, di ba? Yung mga guy talk. And then, packet ng packet. Like, the more you normalize these behaviors, like catcalling, unwanted
Uh,
sexual contact, unwanted touching,
wolf whistle
Yep.
and
stalking,
all
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
it goes up and up to threats, victim blaming, hanggang sa yung pinaka-extreme na is yung assault na, which is yung
Yeah.
rape, drugging, molestation. So it really starts at the bottom, which is normalizing all these behaviors. So for you, Kim, ano yung mga behaviors na napapansin mo na it's normal, pero now that you're older, now that you're more exposed to these
Mm-hmm.
things, it has to be called out kasi mali siya. And the worst part is nare-reinforce siya nung pagka-patriarchal natin bilang mga Chinoy.
Yeah, sexist remarks. I would also say mga green jokes. Yeah, but it's such a normal thing for us to. I don't know. This is my experience when I was working. Majority of us in the studio back in my first job. Hindi ko na lang name drop.
Ben,
First
name drop
job.
natin.
Ay, hindi, first job na lang. Kasi not, actually, ganito na lang. Not all of the guys there were part of that kasi. So, parang I can't just say, lahat ng tao doon sa old office ko, ganyan. So, anyways, going back to my story, first job ko, um, majority were guys. So, parang, I think there were only 3 of us or 4 of us that were female sa office. So, medyo, okay lang naman, it's fine. We were all doing our work. Pero there was one time I needed to send a file. So I needed to send it through my co-worker's PC. So obviously I had to go there and sabi ko, oh, pwede pahiram ng PC. I just have to send some files using your PC. And he was like, yeah, sure, sige, go ahead. Tapos bigla may nag-pop up because the way we communicate in the office back then was Skype.
Okay.
So Skype yung parang messenger namin back then. So yeah, nag-pop up bigla, nag-ping yung Skype niya. Ping ganun. And then automatically the window will open, right? So I was like, okay, I was gonna minimize it sana. So when I was about to minimize the window, I saw this chat. Parang ano yata eh. I can't remember the name, pero boys night or something like that. The typical boys night ganun.
Okay.
So when I clicked the conversation or the chat, it was just full of wala namang porn or anything. It was just full of green jokes. Green jokes or parang
Aim
mga
towards women.
aim towards women or parang mga, let's say parang there's this hot girl na sikat that time or maybe sino ba yung sikat yung there was a time na Kate Upton, 'di ba? There was a time na Kate Upton was so hot, everybody liked Kate Upton. Yeah,
Yeah.
mga ganon. So there was a lot of those in
Okay.
the
Yeah.
yeah, there was a lot of those in the chat box and I was surprised na may ganon. I'm like, "Oh wow, okay." But obviously I didn't call out my coworker naman. I just said, okay, oh, okay na. I thanks for lending me your PC ganun.
So yung story na yun of the parang boys only group chat
Yeah, boys
na
only group chat.
you can be unfiltered, very uncensored. It's very common. Like ako, I'm not gonna stand here and put myself up on a pedestal and say I've never been in those group chats because the fact is I have. I've participated in these group chats and it took a while to unlearn itong mga behavior and to be like, yeah, this is wrong. I should be staying away from these group chats and to really just call for these group chats to be either deleted or to leave these conversations
leave.
altogether, you know. But yeah, these things happen more often than you think. In UP, for example, nagkaroon ng iskandalo a couple of years ago when Upsilon was outed for having a group chat. So this is a fraternity that was outed for having a group chat that sexually objectified women on campus. So I'm not sure anymore ano yung contents ng group chat. All I remember is that for a while there was a big microscope na talagang naka-dawn on this group because of the chat that was outed. So, this is just one example and I'm gonna talk about my I shared my experiences to say na this really happens more often than you think. Said I'm not gonna put you in the uncomfortable position of having to share about this if this is something na you're not comfortable talking
Oh,
about.
it's okay. It's okay. I actually I'm starting to remember like a few like instances when I pretty much experienced that as well because of expectations as a guy, right? So
Yeah.
so actually ganito. I guess one thing that you guys should know about me is that I've never been in any official relationship, so single since birth, and so I've never had sexual experiences and all that. I experienced, for example, I remember a female friend of mine shared news about it was an article about how these actresses were like, oh, they're saving their virginity for marriage and all that. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's nice, that's cool. And then there were people who were commenting na parang, oh yeah, it's nice and all that. But and for me naman, it's like, oh, it's nice. I shared the article. But then on my comment section naman, when I shared that article, a lot of guys like, oh no, Cedric, you should try it because you might like it. Or why are you so uptight and all that? I'm like, no, I'm not forcing my views on anyone. Like this is just me and my experiences. But then you can see that the reactions were very stark, very different compared to when it was a girl who posted it. Those when it was me, a guy who posted it. Parang dyan lumabas yung mga, I can say yung mga douchebags in my life na you should start, why don't you try, having sex with women? Why don't you try experimenting?
Okay.
You will like
Okay.
orgies and all that stuff.
Wait, they actually wrote
Commented
those
in public.
In public. Hindi siya PM.
No,
Oh, wow.
in public. No,
I
you
didn't
should
know
try
that.
it. You might like it. No, those kinds of
public?
things.
Wow,
In public.
okay.
In public. This was like
Kasi I think
just-
that's more of a parang usually
No.
those are the comments that wow, okay.
well, this is one reason why I'm not very close with my high school batch.
Okay.
So this is really interesting to me kasi now you're bringing up the double standard naman against men.
Yes. So.
When it comes to when it comes to a certain point of view, and in this case it's abstaining from sexual activity, 'di ba? Kasi tayo sa Philippines and even more sa ating mga Tsinoy, we're very conservative. We don't really talk about sex all that much. So but there's also a wink nudge na pag lalaki ka, yeah, you kind of have to be sexually active, pero pag babae there's the
Nah,
expectation
you can't do
right.
that.
you're
And
Maria
there are
Clara,
also
you're saving yourself, right?
There are also stories written of fathers hiring prostitutes for their sons to pop the cherry.
I've heard this.
Yeah,
I've heard this. Yeah,
it's true. It's true.
Oh my God, that's
Like
the
fathers,
first time.
yeah.
I'm not going to confirm kung totoo to because I don't know anyone directly who's that
Okay.
hired as a
Okay.
sex worker to
Okay.
devirginize him, right?
It
Sabi
has
ko,
So
di ko alam kung
yeah.
may kilala ka. Pero I've heard these stories.
Okay. Okay, so it's true. So confirmed na
it
both of you guys
happens.
have
Again,
It
experienced.
I'm not
happens.
confirming. I don't
Okay.
want
Okay,
somebody to
okay.
come at
Okay.
us with a
Yeah,
fucking
yeah, yeah.
lawsuit and say,
Yeah,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah,
I
you're
yeah.
know,
putting
I
words
know.
in our
Okay, yeah.
mouths.
Yeah, yeah. All right. I got it. I got it.
Yeah,
But
but
for Cedric and
stories
I to
are
be in different circles and to be hearing the
Yeah.
same thing means
Story,
that
yeah.
somebody in
Out
the
there.
sa mga laylayan ng mga circles namin is probably doing it. Ganun na
yeah,
lang.
yeah.
So again, going back to the double standard, this time it's a different point of view. Now when it comes to being out there sexually, kapag babae, tanggap natin na yeah, she's saving herself from marriage, she's the model woman. Pero pag lalaki, oh, you're saving yourself for women, insert homophobic slur here or insert
Yeah, yeah.
parang you're less of a man na a slur here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um how does that make you feel, said? Like as a guy,
Um,
kasi ikaw yung sinabihan ng ganyan eh.
no, like it's just ano lang. No, for one, it's
Okay,
unfair.
wait.
It's
Wait
totally
lang ah.
uncalled for. You, Kim, what's up?
I before I forget, I just have to say yung that slur na yung sinasabi ni Stan, it's not even supposed to be an insult. Hindi
Yeah,
dapat siya, hindi siya
Yeah,
dapat insulto.
right,
yeah,
Anyway.
right. Right, and again, when you
yeah,
say yung bakla ka ba, that's not supposed to be an insult,
Yes.
di
yeah.
ba?
It's
Because
not
there's
supposed to
nothing
be an
wrong with
insult.
being gay. We're
Yes.
recording this
Exactly.
during Pride Month, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we're all trying to say that we're not encouraging people
Yep.
to
yes.
use yung bakla ka ba as an
An
insult
insult.
because
Yeah.
that is a homophobic slur, right?
Yes. Right.
When
It's
used in
really
that
it's still
context.
annoying that people still use that as an insult these days, yung bakla
Yes,
Yeah.
ka. And I'm like,
No.
absolutely. Right, yung misogyny kasi when you really
Yeah.
think about it, it does affect both parties. Diba? It does
Yes.
both affect males and females. But I want to bring it back to the conversation for women, to take it back to Kim. Kasi
Yes.
a lot of the ingrained and systemic misogyny na pinagdaraanan natin bilang mga Tsinoy and then zooming out further, yung mga Pinoy is really something that starts at home, then gets
yeah.
reinforced in school, gets reinforced in yung different environments that you get into as an adult. So aside from the experiences you've had at home, what are other behaviors or yung mga sinasabi sa'yo that really made you go, uy, parang malito ah.
At home, I think we got it all covered more or less. But I have another point na I wanted to let our listeners know.
Yeah, go
I'm
right
not so
ahead.
sure if it's something that our listeners have experienced or you still don't know about this. But okay, this is I'm gonna put this in parallel with Mulan. So medyo similar talaga siya. So I went to the Chinese cemetery. I usually don't go there. So it's usually just my mom or my dad who goes to visit. So I don't know anything about that. But recently, I've been doing the comics, right? So, syempre, to pay respects then to my great grandpa, because my grandpa has been buried there since 2017. So parang fairly recent lang din. So it's not something na parang that was ingrained into me na, oh, you have to go to the Chinese cemetery. So it wasn't a big deal. So when I went there, syempre paid my respects, and then my uncle was actually there. So he took me to all of the mausoleum. So I think separate pa yata yung mausoleum ng great grandma ko kasi parang ano siya, basta it was separate. So it was in a different area. So we had to walk there. So yeah, so I visited everything, my father's side, my mother's side. And then there was this time na we were I think my mom was lighting the candle or something. And then parang sinasabi niya sa akin, Kim, ano, when you get married, it's not that you're not allowed to visit the mausoleum. It's more of you can't really go here anymore once you're married. Pupunta ka na dapat sa mausoleum ng husband mo, parang gano'n. Hindi mo na to mausoleum, parang gano'n.
So this
Ah,
is the first time I'm hearing this kasi
uh-huh.
may mausoleum din kami sa father side ko for my
Okay.
great grandparents and we would visit that every Undas, every November
Okay.
1 pre-pandemic. And then yung shobe ko, hindi naman siya ever sinabihan ng ganun na, oh, you're gonna get married off one day to a different family. Bawal ka nang dumalaw dito. So, did you ever ask kung saan nanggaling yun?
I don't know, I think it's a really old parang mindset. Talagang like,
Just pass
oh,
down.
it just passed down and then syempre eventually it reached me and I'm like, okay, what is this? Sorry for the term. So what is this BS? Sobrang BS niya. Like parang I can't go to my own like great grandparents' mausoleum just because I'm married out. It's kind of unfair, 'di ba? Parang you just have to follow your husband.
Yeah,
Like, I
it
mean,
kind of
I'm not saying that it's wrong to follow your husband. Like, kailangan yata, yung gusto yata nila was like total submission to your husband's family or whatnot.
right. It lines up with yung parang tinuturo na you're married off, wala ka na hindi ka na under your biological
Yeah.
family. Nandun ka na
Yeah.
sa pamilya ng husband mo, 'di ba? You take their surname
Yeah.
and you're basically part of their family tree. So I guess under that
I,
using context
yeah.
clues, I can
That
make it make sense and connect the dots. Pero hindi ko pa rin magets yung logic kasi as you said, it comes across as very bullshitty na parang what the fuck is this, right?
exactly.
You
My mom
mentioned the
always brings that up, like all the time. Like not in mausoleums, like in different situations as well. Let's
Can you give
say
more?
I'm trying to remember, but most of the time, she would always say, "Oh, for example, there's something that she needs to do." I really can't remember. I'm so sorry. I can't remember what exact situation. Pero basically, my mom would always say, wala na akong say dyan kasi I'm married out. That's always her reason. And I'm like, just because you're married out, you can't have a say in that anymore. That's it. And I'm like, really? Parang I don't wanna and then I don't wanna get married if that's the case. Wala na pala akong say eh, di ba?
You know,
Parang
sometimes
ganun.
sometimes I suspect na if you do ask them like why,
They
feeling
can't
ko
explain it properly.
they'll only say because that was what I was taught. Parang there's no real
Yeah.
reason
There's no
anymore.
real reason. Yeah, they don't know why. It's just passed down. And
Like
then
just pass
eventually they're just gonna
down.
pass it down to their kids, which is something we're trying to
Diba?
correct right now. Di ba?
You guys mentioned yung concept na, yung nga, married out ka na eh. So, I'm not sure if you ever have talked about mana sa family,
Uh-huh.
inheritance.
Okay.
From my lived experience, ang tinuro sa akin is that in the Chinese family, kapag babae ka, hindi ka nabibigyan ng mana.
What?
Kasi, yeah, ang bibigyan lang ng mana is yung mga anak na lalaki, the sons, and their
Yeah.
families. So if you are a daughter, lalo na if you are married, wala ka ng inheritance. So
Yeah,
that was
very
what
common
happened with my
story.
with my ama.
Okay.
Yung parang pinaka family business, because they were following yung Chinese na family setup, wala na siyang mana when my Guatay Kong passed away, my great grandfather.
Yeah.
Parang ideally wala na because she was married to my angkong, right? So that was something na parang ingrained and systemic because when I
Yeah.
talked to my friends about it growing up na parang may ganyan din ba sa inyo, they kind of said the same thing. Kaya ako siya nabanggit.
Yeah.
Parang it goes into the whole misogyny din na parang yeah, technically you are the flesh and blood pero dahil babae ka, you're out of the will. So
Wow.
said this is
Yeah.
new to you, I'm guessing from your
Yeah.
reactions.
We're all guys, so
Yeah.
I don't know these things.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Lalaki rin kayo so wala ring
Yeah.
dispute.
No, wala kang alam. That's gonna be
No,
fine.
no.
How about you, Kim? Since nga, babae ka, has
Yeah.
the issue of mana ever been talked about in your family?
Okay. As for inheritance or quote unquote mana, never namin pinag-usapan because there's this rule if you're Chinese, diba? Tas you're alive pa or kung sino yung main patriarch of the family if he's still alive, if you talk about mana, parang disrespeto yun sa
Oh,
kanya.
boleso
It's
yun.
like boleso, disrespect. How dare you ask about the inheritance when I'm still alive? Kind of like that. So
Right.
we never talked about it, but I want to narrate a story. This is not my story. This is something I heard from friends of friends na okay, naging family dispute siya na okay, even though she's the eldest girl sa
Yeah.
family, eldest siya, tapos she has two younger brothers. So obviously, when she got married, parang wala na daw yung mana sa kanya kasi she's married out na. So automatically yung mana mapupunta sa dalawang brothers, 'di ba? So wala. And then it ends up I think what happened was naging the husband was actually trying to fight for the yung mana or the inheritance of the yung eldest daughter,
Ano
right?
yung defense?
Yung para, di ba anak mo rin to? Di ba anak mo rin si yung eldest daughter? Why isn't she getting anything? Di ba? Parang, and then she actually helped out rin naman sa family business. Well, this is what I heard, okay? I'm not gonna name drop anymore. I don't want any family to come, like, crawl to our podcast and say, okay, how dare you?
No,
But
that
yeah,
sounds very familiar to me because
there's a lot of
sa extended
situations.
family. Yeah. Sa mga extended families, 'di ba? Something close to home similar happened similarly and same yung logic na parang ang inexplain sa akin growing up was that in the Chinese setup, 'di ba? Yung mga anak na lalaki lang yung makakatanggap ng mana. But because we're in the Philippines, we follow the quote-unquote Philippine setup. So, lahat ng biological na anak, regardless of lalaki or babae, tatanggap ng mana. So, double standard na naman. And it's so weird to me how people can do mental gymnastics to justify these things. But now, it comes back to greed. Yun yung central issue naman. And we don't want to go there because that's another can of worms, diba?
Yep.
The greed surrounding
That's
humanity.
a
Let's
future
go back to-
topic. Future
Future
topic.
topic. I feel
That
like
would be a
there's
future topic, yeah, for
that
sure.
is I would say that's a topic that I feel like a lot of people have experienced, but it's something that you
No
don't
one talks
want to
about
talk.
in the
Nobody
open.
talks about it because it's parang what what's in the family has to stay in the family.
Yeah,
Kind of like
that's
that,
one.
right? Diba? That's one.
It's a conversation about money, and if you put that dirty laundry out there, you don't know what other kind of worms
Yeah.
you might open. Na,
Yep,
oh,
yep.
ito pala
Ooh.
yung money issues ng Tan family or
Yeah, yeah.
whatever, right? Shout out
Put
to all the
pseudo
rich Tan
names na lang.
families out
But
there.
that's gonna be a really interesting
Pseudo
topic.
names like Kevin Tan and Justin Tan.
Yeah,
Joke.
yeah.
Yeah, keep it like that for now. Keep it
Shout
like
out to
that. for now.
Kevin Tan and Justin Tan, however many of you are
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
Let's bring it back again to the idea of the systemic misogyny dito sa mga community natin, Kim. Is there anything else we missed out on na parang common attitudes or common things na sinasabi na our generation or maybe the one before us might not realize is actually very misogynistic?
Okay, the fact that maybe sige, another kwento again from me. So I went to a client meeting and so obviously like syempre, before a meeting or a client meeting, you have to tell your client about yourself. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, hi client, I'm Kim. This is what I do, blah 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 blah. Okay, then present, diba? So you have to give a little background about yourself. And this client of mine, I've actually worked with him for a couple of projects now. So like 2 or 3 projects we've worked together. So he knows my background. We're friends on Facebook, so he knows what else I'm doing in life, right? And then during our last meeting, he just told me, "Oh, hey Kim, in Tagalog, this not I'm not so sure if this was his exact words, pero along the same lines, he just told me, Kim, wag mong masyadong galingan kasi baka walang magkakagusto sa'yo na lalaki." And this is
Wow.
this is a Chinoy guy, okay? Chinoy guy who told me that, and I'm like, wow.
How did
Parang-
you react in the moment?
Parang, syempre, it was a client, so parang, obviously, I can't say it to his face. I don't want to give him a lecture kasi I was still trying to close the deal, diba? Pero I feel
Fuck,
like...
that's the worst.
That's the worst, diba? Parang, I don't know.
I want your
like,
money, but you're a shitty human being. But I want your money.
So, where do I put myself? So yeah.
Ano sinabi
wasn't
mo? Keeping all
was-
these things in mind.
I actually tweeted about it. So, nilagay ko na lang sa tweet. So, wala na lang ako sinabi sa kanya. Para sabi ko, ay, hindi naman. But I just had to say it in a nice way because I was still closing the deal, obviously. So, I think I tweeted, I'm trying to look for the tweet right now. Ayan, there. So, I just said there's no limit to what women can accomplish. And I feel like if you're gonna get a husband or a partner or a spouse, it has to be someone who will help you achieve those goals.
Yes, not those weak
Ah.
shits.
Yes. And then, I really like the reply of my friend. Sabi niya, if guys are scared of successful women, then they are not worth talking to. Exactly. Pero
exactly.
in this case, kasi client ko. So, parang I can't, I really, I
that's
don't
some
know where
legit
to put
small dick
myself,
energy.
okay? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, yun lang. Pero in my head,
How did that
during
make you feel?
parang why would you say that? Parang that's sobrang backward thinking nun na
Yeah.
parang a woman can't achieve. Parang yung sole goal lang niya is just to get married and that's it. That's her ultimate goal in life. And I think for most Chinoy women who were raised up in my time, where I'm not so sure yung mga younger generations, if this is still what they're putting in their heads. Pero
You sound like you come from the foot binding generation when you talk about these things.
yeah,
know.
well, it's because my mom kasi her family is super traditional. So I guess that was passed on to me as well a little bit. But I'm very thankful that I was able to grow up in an environment that was a little bit liberal, diba? Or a little bit open to other things, right? So I'm glad na that happened.
I think when you zoom out of that anecdote that you shared, and I want to thank you for sharing that because I can imagine that must have been something uncomfortable to have to recount kasi nakakainis talaga yung sinabi, diba?
Exactly.
It paints a picture of someone who believes now when you're a woman you're not supposed to be as successful or as wealthy as a man because that makes you less desirable, and that's very problematic as a thought, as a behavior. And then when you verbalize it, diba? Kasi everything starts with thoughts eh. And kung may problematic na thoughts ka, okay lang that you have it, but try to keep it in your thoughts. You know what I mean? Like if you can change, if you can grow out of it, good, great. But if you have it and you feel like you have to express that, then clearly there's something wrong with that problematic thought and with you, right? So, for you, Kim, what does that tell you about the way that we raise our boys and girls when you have a Chinoy man like that who was raised to say that na, huy, wag mo masyado galingan na baka walang magkagusto sa'yo.
Small dick energy.
Yeah, well, first of all, if that guy would court me or any other like guy with that personality would like approach me, I wouldn't even be interested at all. Like, yung sinabi mo pa lang, there's a lot of things wrong with that already. So parang if you're gonna actually pursue me, that's definitely a no-no. Iba, parang yung, what do you call this? Yung tingin niya sa babae iba eh. Parang yung gusto lang niya is a probably like a housewife or somebody who just follows him around or somebody who just submits to him completely, 'di ba?
Ikaw,
Eh,
said, having grown up in an all male na magkakapatid na setup, 'di ba? Was that a mindset that was ever taught to you growing up?
oh yeah, definitely. Even in school, not just in the family. Na
Oh.
parang men are inherent should be inherently be more successful because you're the breadwinner, while the females, you're in school and we're taught how to do wood shops, but in women naman they're taught how to cook.
Yeah, parang
Yeah,
nagiging pinalagay mo na yung gender roles eh. In
yeah,
school pa lang. You can
Right,
already
right,
see
right.
it.
Gender
You can
roles,
already see
right?
it.
And
right.
then what's also sad rin kasi is that there's a lot of men in our age range now who still think like this. Na parang the woman cannot be better than me. And in fact, I remember Kim mentioned someone. There's this guy, and he explicitly said that he doesn't want a girl who's better than him. Like even when they walk together, he should walk in front of the girl. And I'm like, what kind of a
Oh,
mindset is
I don't think
that?
that was me. I think that was my friend who told me
Oh
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah,
Wait
because
so
lang,
he
ayun.
where's this guy from? The Qing dynasty?
Which is why this is also sad, Rin, for older single women who has that go-getter attitude. I have a lot of friends now. They're really eligible bachelorettes. They're in their mid 30s, and then it's always a struggle for them to
true.
to find someone to marry because for one they have this strong personality. They're go-getters and they're very eloquent. And a lot of guys in their age range
Circle.
find that intimidating. So
Oh.
so which is why parang like
That's
honestly,
so sad though.
yeah, yeah,
That's so
it's very
sad. Yeah,
sad now.
I have a few people in mind as well that are in that category na
Yeah.
30s tas very maganda naman everything like it's just the fact na they're very outspoken.
Yes. And then that's why
And
it's
then
hard
guys
for
don't like
them.
that. Yeah, it's so hard for them to find a partner because they're
And then if there
outspoken
are
or
guys naman who are single in their age range, they go for women who are much, much younger
younger.
than them.
Oh, yeah. I
So
think that's a conversation, like a different conversation,
that can be
a
another
another
topic point
topic.
altogether. But
Yeah, ibang usapan na yun.
Ibang
Kasi now
usapan na
you're
yun.
dealing with power
Chinoy
dynamics.
dating. Chinoy
And Chinoy
dating.
dating, yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Dealing
Chinoy
with
dating, yeah, that
Chinoy
falls
dating and
under
power
that as
dynamics
well.
as a whole. I think
Yeah.
na when you're talking about men who specifically seek out younger women, the issue of power naturally has to come up.
Mhm.
Kasi, 'di ba, why something about that must turn you on. Aside from the obvious physicality of it all.
Yeah, yeah.
Something about the dominance in the power structure must turn you on. Unless this hot 19-year-old is actually a dom and you're a sub and that shit turns you on, then I can't judge you for that shit, right? Like
Okay.
if this younger woman is completely dominating you at gusto mo magpaapak dyan, sure, go do what turns
Step
you on.
on me.
Go what makes you
Yeah.
happy, right?
Oh
So
man.
annoying na like if a woman is outspoken, it's not
All of
very
a sudden
nice.
Yeah,
you're
what do you
out
think
of the
about that,
dating
Kim?
pool.
Yeah, I have this is not my experience. Okay, I've personally seen this with my own eyes. I'm having dinner in in a friend's house. So obviously nandun din yung parents, 'di ba? So we were eating dinner and then obviously having a great conversation and then my friend's mom actually parang she wanted to point out something or may point siya or may opinion siya sabihin niya na, parang i-explain it. She was so ready to explain it and all that. And then the dad was just like, okay, stop. I'm going to cut you there. Let me do it. Para,
Wow.
not in those exact words, but
Yeah.
that's what it
Pretty
looks
much the
like.
gist, yeah.
Parang pretty much the gist. Parang stop, ako na. Wag ka na, ako na.
What I will add to what Kim said is that this is another one of those things that happens way more often than you think. Now, you probably don't realize that this happens under your own roof or that you actually do it yourself, but you probably do. I personally can say that I have seen this happen more
Oh.
times than I can count. And I fucking hate it, right?
I hate it too.
And maybe because sobrang ingrained na nga siya, I might have done it myself. I could have. Diba? I don't have like CCTV footage of my entire life na I can go back through every fucking conversation I've had. But I will say na when we point these out, we're not saying na when a Chinese Filipino guy does this, na kupal sila automatically or na they're assholes. I will acknowledge na tao tayong lahat, we're all human. There are good sides to us. There are not so good sides to us. And this is one of our not so good sides that we have to call out kasi it's ingrained in us. It's something
programmed.
we're conditioned to do, to believe. As Sed says, we're programmed to think na it's just right. It's just the laws of nature working its course. Pero mali siya. We're calling it out na if you're a guy at the dinner table and you're calling out the woman because you want to get your point across and not let her get her shit in, there's something problematic with that. Right? Do you guys
Yeah.
want to add to that?
Just I don't know, like during that time when I saw that happen, I was like, oh wow, this really this actually happened. Like you stopped her from like giving her opinion or like letting her share whatever her thoughts were, and then
In front of a guest.
in front of a guest pa.
The
Although
worst
parang hindi
thing,
na,
man.
it wasn't it didn't come off as bastos to me. Hindi naman siya sobrang bastos kasi parang yung the way they interacted, like my parents, my friends' parents interacted, parang it seems like something that has been going on for a while if they're
So, parang
guests.
sanay na.
Sanay na yata. And then, syempre, obviously, the mom was like giving us a sour face nung parang stinop siya. Parang ganun.
You could tell she wasn't okay with
Yeah,
it.
she
Then.
was-
Like,
she
if you
wasn't
were
okay
okay
with
with
it,
it, you would have not.
Pero wala
put
siya
on a sour
magagawa
face.
eh. Wala siya
Right.
magagawa, 'di ba? Parang I mean obviously there's a guest, 'di ba? I was there, so parang she couldn't really like be completely at home talaga. She has to have this certain ano rin.
Restraint.
Yes, restraint exactly. Because I was there. So
Hindi
so
lang
yun
yun.
lang. But I felt bad.
sige,
I really
sige.
felt bad for the mom. Parang sabi ko, oh wow, parang it actually happened several times. I just noticed it lang recently nung when I started like having dinners frequently with this friend. Then I was like, wow, okay, this dad isn't giving the mom a chance to just say anything.
Speak her
Parang,
mind, yeah.
yeah,
I feel
yun-
like that says a lot about the power dynamics. Kasi on the surface level, yung binanggit mo, Kim, na you can't make your point. Ako bilang lalaki, I'm gonna make my point because I have a penis. Therefore, I'm right, or therefore I have the voice. But that's already the gender dynamics at play here. But then there's the second layer, which was the hindi niya ma-call out sa harap mo because that's unbecoming of a woman. Like that's how it comes across to me, na parang boleso if I call it out in front of the guest, or boleso if I call it out because ako yung asawang babae.
yeah.
So there are so many layers here, and none of us are anthropologists or sociologists or psychologists. we can't tell you all how to do this correctly, but these are things that we've all experienced to different degrees na are very problematic. That's why we're calling it out. That's why we're having conversations about this. So on that note, Kim, are there any other points about the inherent misogyny in our community, in our culture na you want to bring up?
Yeah, mostly I think it just goes back to like getting married. That's it. Like yung getting married, parang that's the end of your that's the end of your career as a woman, or parang that's the end of your life. That's it. Parang
That's
you
the
have
last chapter, being a
last
housewife.
chapter. Yun. So I guess that's why a lot of people in our generation get married a little bit more late because they probably want to do more things or they want to achieve more things before getting married. I don't know. I don't know. How do you guys feel about that topic of like we're diving a little bit into marriage here.
Oh, Tita Kim, let's start with Seth. Because, whenever a Tita asks me that, I defer to the next possible cousin or like family friend.
What do you
man.
think? Yeah. Pero, I know, yeah, going back to like marriage and everything, I feel like parang ano, like even for my friends na girls din, parang whenever we talk about the topic na parang kaisha or marriage, they feel like parang that's the end for them. Like they can't do anything else.
Like it's a death
Yeah,
sentence.
it's a death sentence for you. Parang once you get married to that guy's family, okay, goodbye. Parang ganon. We won't see you anymore. You just have to be with that guy. Parang naging ganon. And I'm like, okay, that's not supposed to be the case, 'di ba? Parang let's say if you're married, tapos if you want to keep your own surname, parang 'di ba, let's say here in the Philippines, if you're a woman, you want to keep your surname, parang ay, wala kang respeto sa pamilya ng lalaki, hindi mo kukunin yun. 'Di ba? That's why you got married. And I feel like that should be the case as well. Like if you get married as a woman, you want to keep your own surname because you probably made a name for yourself already. That's totally fine. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that? In keeping your surname. Let's say you get married, tapos your wife wants to keep her surname. What do you think about that?
Can I go
Okay.
first, Ted?
Yeah,
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
You
go
go
go.
first, Stan.
So, yung sinabi mo just now, Kim, na a woman who's been successful in her career wants to keep her given name kasi she's spent all these years building that name, diba, for her career. I know someone who's very close to me na ganun. She's married now. Her stage name is a hyphen. So it's her last
Okay.
name and then her husband's last name. Hyphenated siya. Pero her documents actually still bear her given name. And when I asked her why, sabi niya, yun nga, parang I spent all this time legitimizing myself and building a name for myself, and then I'm just gonna get married and then lose my name. So I totally respect her for that. And I have a long-time girlfriend, and we've talked about marriage before. We still talk about it when the subject comes up. And my feelings on it, I'm gonna put it on the record. I don't give a shit if she takes my name or
Yeah.
keeps her name. Kasi whatever makes you happy.
Yeah.
That's me. Kasi it's not really something na gusto kong ipagpilitan. Alam mo yun? Like, it's not a hill I want to die on. It doesn't mean that much to me na I have to like move hell and high water for her to be a C. You know? Ikaw said, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, because personally, I value one person's like individualism.
Yeah,
So because for me it's sad na parang once you get married, parang your personal identity dies with it. You know, that's
Yeah, I
how
think that shouldn't be the case though.
yeah.
I feel like that shouldn't be the case.
So that's
And
how
I
I feel what women go through. I think na parang, oh man, I lose my name. And then you can't have a say pa on many things, right? Once you get married. So parang, wow, not only do you lose your personal identity, but you also lose your voice in the process once you get married to, let's say, a traditional
yeah.
Tsinoy family, right? You know, if she wants to keep her given name, then that's fine with me. I mean, my ego isn't fragile, so if she
Ooh.
wants to keep her surname, then that's fine. You know, less hassle with the paperwork, with the changing of her legal documents, diba? So yeah, for me, I don't care. It's fine. If she wants to hyphenate it, that's fine, Rin. But if she wants to keep her surname, I'm all for it.
Hey,
Whatever floats your
shout
boat.
out to whoever said is dating or whoever said will date. I want you to keep notes because this shit's on the record. So you can hold him accountable
Yeah.
by pointing them to episode
Yep.
4 at like the 1 hour mark.
You said that on episode 4 of Now Steve podcast. So
Oh
yeah.
man.
There are so many other issues that we have to unpack with regard to relationships and the kaisao and all of that. We can get to that in a future episode. We do plan to have more of these conversations, but as we wind down here, Kim, are there any other points that you want us to get to? Because we're trying to cover this topic as best as we can. I just don't want to leave anything on the table while we're recording, in case there's something that we might have glossed over.
Yeah, I just wanted to let our listeners know as well. Like, I love it every time we have an episode. It feels like ang bitin. I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but that's how I feel every time. There's a
No, this
lot.
is why we do plan to revisit like future like topics, right? Except
yeah.
sometimes we will have guests, like maybe psychologists, maybe or other people of authority who can speak on these matters. So
Or, fellow Chinoys
Yeah,
who've gone
fellow
through the
Chinoys,
same
yeah.
lived experiences.
yes, so this is why I think for me it's exciting that yes, even though we talked about this here in this episode, it doesn't mean that it's shut. So you'll never know. There might be future episodes as well, where we will revisit this, but with fresh eyes and other guests to join us.
Well said. I think that's a great way to end it at. Very open-ended kasi, di ba, a 1 hour podcast is not going to cure all of these things.
Yeah.
Even if we address it, it's not like we're gonna tell all the Tsinoy people in the Philippines na, huy, mali yan, ah. We have to solve all that shit. I think the first step to correcting all these behaviors is acknowledging that these behaviors are being done, na
Yep.
they exist, and then you take the action na, okay, now we're gonna curb it. Oh, I'm part of this problematic group chat where we objectify the women in the office. Probably time to delete the group chat, or probably time to bounce, and
Yeah.
maybe call it out. So it starts with that. It starts with the little things, and then hopefully it escalates into something bigger, that being na it's a bigger change. Diba, sabi nga ni Michael Jackson, starting with the man in the mirror. So that's what we hope to be able to provide for you here on the podcast. On that note, if you want to join the conversation and just get it out there, we are on social media. It is at Now Steaming Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. On Twitter, though, you can also reach us. So my handles are facebook.com/StancyOnline. On Twitter and Instagram, it is @_Stancy. If you want to hit me up and talk about these things, fire away. How about you, Kim? Where can people find you?
Yeah, I actually have a website where I put in everything. Like somebody wrote this really nice write up for me, so it makes me seem like I'm so eligible and all of that. But yeah, shout out to Anya Reg who wrote that write up for me. So thank you so much. You guys can check out my website. That's kimberlymass.com. You can check out like the other things I'm up to, or probably other press releases about me. It's all there. I have to update it, but more or less that's about it. The gist of parang what I'm doing right now. You can also reach out on Facebook and Instagram. That's at Kimberly Mass. I'm also on Twitter, but not so active there. But if you do tweet me, I'm gonna try my best to reply. So there, that's how you can reach me.
And you said?
Oh, well, you can only reach me now just on Instagram at Cedric C. Cheng.
All right, so there, those are the ways you can get in touch with us. Kim, I'm glad that you said na kahit papano this conversation was therapeutic for you. I hope na for our listeners who have gone through these things or have seen these things firsthand, it can also be therapeutic for them. I've always wanted to have a platform like this, and I'm sure you guys did too, where we can just get these things out there to know now we're not alone. We're not the only ones who are going through this, thinking through this, and hopefully we won't be the only ones having these conversations. With that all said, if you feel like this is something that is really bothering you to the point that you need professional help, we are not professional help.
Yep.
We're not licensed therapists. I'm just a guy with a mic and a can of beer. And Kim and Seth are just two artists who are very well spoken about these issues. So if you do need help, professional help, please seek the help of a therapist, of a psychologist, a certified mental health professional. We will advocate for that because sometimes you just really need that help.
Yes.
And especially during these times we live in, yung mental health importante pa rin yan. But on that note, we're going to be ending this episode of Now Steaming. Thank you so much for joining us again at Now Steaming Podcast on Facebook and on Instagram. And please follow us on Spotify as well. Leave a 5-star review, follow us, subscribe, and let us know what you think about the podcast. On behalf of Kimberly Mass and Cedric Cheng of So Asian Comics, my name is Stancy, reminding everyone to please stay safe, keep wearing your masks, please get those vaccines, and register to vote. Now Steaming out.